Hi, true crime fans. You're listening to Coffee, Cigarettes, and Murder, a true crime podcast where me and my friends sit around the table and discuss murder, mystery, missing persons, and the supernatural. We hope you enjoy the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm Melissa, and I'm here today with my friend Jeff.
Hello.
A few weeks ago, my friend Sherry pulled a card out of my new deck of serial killer cards. It was the Green River Killer card. So today we're going to do the Green River episode. This is the first episode in a series that we are going to call our Maniac Murderer episodes that will premiere on the first of every month. So stay tuned at the end of this episode to see which card we pull and which Maniac Murderer we'll talk about on the 1st of March. Just as a refresher, I'm going to read the card again for you today. It's the Green River Killer. He is alive. His name is Gary Ridgway. His age at first kill was 33. His years undiscovered, 19. Number of victims, 71. He was born on February 18th, 1949. He has a maniac factor of 3 stars. The Green River Killer was initially convicted of 48 separate murders and later confessed to nearly twice that number. He murdered numerous women and girls in Washington state. Most of his victims were alleged to be prostitutes. It's perfect timing to do a Gary Ridgway episode. The youngest victim of Gary Ridgway was identified on 1/25/2021. Thanks to the DNA Doe Project, the previously unidentified victim, who was known as Bones 10, now has a name. She is 14-year-old Wendy Stevens. Wendy had run away from her Colorado home when she was just 14. It wasn't long before her story ended with the Green River Killer. We're thankful that her family can have some peace knowing what happened to her. So today we are going to be talking about the Green River. And according to Wikipedia, the Green River is a 65-mile long river in the state of Washington's south of Interstate 90. Gary Ridgway was born on February 18th, 1949. This makes him an Aquarius. I looked up his birthday on sunsigns.org and I took the following from their site. If your birthday is February 18th, you are intriguing. People are attracted to you because you are passionate. You love being spontaneous. You can charm almost anyone. You have an inner charisma that is just amazing. I feel like that takes on a whole new level of creepy when talking about a serial killer, especially one as evil as the Green River Killer.
He definitely did do some charming.
He did.
He charmed a lot of prostitutes.
He did.
He looks like a charmer, I think.
I would not be charmed by him.
I don't know. I don't think he's a bad-looking guy.
But I mean, in that picture where he's younger, I can see what picture Jeff's looking at. I mean, it's totally 70s, and that's not an appealing look to me.
I think you're thrown off by his later mugshot picture next to it, which the years were not kind. But his younger picture, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm thinking of it in relation to the clientele that most prostitutes probably see.
Right, yeah.
I'm thinking he's like the cream of the crop.
Yeah, it's true. Those poor women. If we start at Gary's youth, he claims he was abused. He claims his mother was very inappropriate. Her name was Mary Rita Ridgway.
That sounds like a top shelf drink that you would get at the Outback. A margarita of some type, the Margarita Ridgway.
Gary claims that when he would wet the bed, which is mortifying for children on its own, that his mother would put him in a cold bath and scrub his genitals, and this continued until his early teens.
And this is where we have to talk about his genitals being scrubbed.
By his mother.
Right.
I mean, my kid's 9, and I haven't washed his genitals in some years.
Well, I can't imagine how you think that's going to solve the bedwetting.
Especially with the cold bath.
And the scrubbing.
And I can't imagine that didn't make him want to murder. Cold bath?
Alone. Without the scrubbing of the genitals.
Right.
Would make me want to kill somebody too, probably.
Not that it's her fault. We don't know that that's true. But if it is, it might be her fault.
We don't know it's true, but making that up is...
Well, I don't know. He really does like attention. He really likes to be in the news and the spotlight, so he could be making it up. We don't know. He claimed that his mother would tell him dirty, inappropriate things and that his father would beat him. That his mother dressed like a prostitute. He claimed that his father, whom drove a bus for a living, would come home and describe sexual things that he saw the local prostitutes engaging in. The mother is said to have screamed at the whole family all the time and belittled them, even the father. Gary says he fantasized about killing his mother at a young age, but also fantasized about having sex with her. Which I really have to admit, that is exactly what he did later in life.
It is exactly what he did.
His childhood fantasies lived out in the most horrific way. He blames his hatred for women on his mother. But the neighbors near where Gary grew up have fond memories of Gary swimming with their daughters. They don't deny that Gary's a killer, and they don't know what went on in the house behind closed doors, but they never saw Gary's mother dressed or behaving inappropriately. They claim that she actually dressed relatively conservatively. They do admit that she would scream at her husband and 3 boys, but they never saw it faze them. They would see the mother reprimand the boys, and the boys would listen and then be back outside ready for more. Can you imagine being a parent and, in hindsight, Gary Ridgway used to swim in the pool with your daughters and you had no idea? I feel like we just walk around on a daily basis interacting with everyone as if they are just normal, and there has to be a large variety of them that are just secretly insane and we have no idea.
Oh, absolutely. You never know what demons people are battling.
Gary did admit to killing and torturing animals in his youth. So at this time, we have 2 out of the 3 requirements for the McDonald's triad. The McDonald's triad includes bedwetting after age 12, cruelty to animals, and fire setting. You need 2 out of 3 of these to be predicted to be a serial killer. Gary also stabbed a boy in his youth. He was about 16 years old. The boy was okay, but this was never traced back to Gary. The boy must not have known who Gary was. The boy did ask Gary why he stabbed him, and Gary stated that he wanted to know what it was like. Gary was in the Navy for a few years. He married once before he went into the Navy. They divorced shortly after Gary left the Navy. His second marriage also led to divorce, but resulted in the birth of his son Matthew. Ridgway was known to demand sex from his wives multiple times a day. He enjoyed the sex workers in his neighborhood, but hated their presence there. Ridgway would often read from the Bible aloud at home or at work. He would demand that his wife live by the teachings of the Bible, but he also demanded that she have sex with him multiple times a day, also in public areas, also in places that she unknowingly were burial sites of his victims.
He's really covering like both ends of the spectrum in like multiple different areas. You know, he hates the prostitutes, but he sleeps with them.
Wants to utilize their services.
Right. And he's killing people, but he's going to church, and he's all into it. I don't know.
If he's playing a part, or if he just...
Is that like fucked up?
2 separate Gary Ridgways. Gary boasted that choking was what he did, that killing was his career. His 20 years of killing give him the record for killing longevity without getting caught.
That is pretty remarkable, especially given that he's following like certain patterns all the time. He's killing in the same general area, kind of, and he's killing the same, types of people.
I mean, it was a long river, but all these dumping spots were close to the river.
Yeah, it's not, like he's like going to different towns or counties or
states like some serial killers do.
Yeah, he's staying to a pretty, I think, predictable pattern, and it goes on for an insane amount of time.
It took Gary 5 months to fully confess to his crimes. In his confession, it appears that he took a very disciplined approach to his killing. For a man with a IQ of 80, His killing was very well planned, very thought out, and he never spoke a word. He claims to have strangled dozens of women in his home, but investigators never found any evidence. He would take the women's jewelry and leave it in the restroom of the Kentworth Motor Truck Plant where he worked. Gary painted trucks for a living. He had perfect attendance. I feel like perfect attendance is so hard, especially with kids and just life and getting an ample amount of sleep. And he had this total psychotic hobby of murdering, and I just cannot imagine how many sleepless nights that must have led to.
Well, yeah, he's out late, he's killing people, he's having sex, he's disposing of bodies. It takes up a lot of time.
Exhausting. He said he liked the thought of someone walking around with a piece of the jewelry that he had left in the bathroom from a victim. Once Gary had a wound from a woman who fought back during a murder. He put battery acid on the wound to disguise it. Sometimes Gary would have sex with dead, decaying bodies, not because he liked necrophilia, but because it was less risky than going and finding a live woman and killing her. Sometimes Gary would hurt himself pulling a body through the woods or burying it, and he would say that he got hurt at work and file workman's comp claims.
So he's walking around. You know, I'd really like to get a prostitute right now and then kill her. But so much work. I guess I could just go visit that relatively fresh one from the other day.
I mean, like we were saying, perfect attendance at work. That was apparently important.
Ugh. It's so disgusting.
Very disgusting.
I mean, not that, he's like the pillar of stability as he's killing and murdering people anyway, but I think that just really brings it to like another level.
Ridgway has confessed that he has thought about killing his son Matt, and that he also thought about killing his second and third wives, one whom he was happily married to for 17 years. I do wish I would have researched a little more about Matt now and found out what he thought of that. I mean, his wives probably feel like they're lucky to have gotten away with their lives.
Yeah, I don't think they really... I doubt they ever suspected that he was dangerous in any way at all.
But his son, I mean, that has to be really hurtful.
Well, it's probably very... I don't know what the word is, I guess. Betrayal, or maybe thinking you thought you knew somebody, but you didn't.
Right, somebody very close to you,
right.
Your own father.
Yeah, is living this complete double life that you had no idea about.
Right, it's not just a regular double life with another family somewhere. It's a double life where he's actually a serial killer. Gary was a religious man and attended church. He would often be moved to tears during sermon. After the Navy, Gary settled down in the Seattle area. The killing started soon after. In 1982, police started finding bodies along the Green River. Gary would keep killing until 1998. Most of Gary's victims were prostitutes working along Interstate 90. Gary's method of choice was strangulation, usually with his hands, but there were occasions where he would use a ligature. In 1982, a woman working as a telemarketer decided to hitchhike home instead of taking the bus. I'm not 100% on this arrangement, but she offered the driver a $20 bill and a sex act, and he would drive her home and smoke a joint with her. That was what she expected anyway, but what she got was the Green River Killer. Gary insisted they go fool around in the woods, and she went with it. But when they got into the woods, Gary attacked her. They rolled around on the ground, but she fought back. Getting up, pushing him into a tree, she was able to run over to a local motel. Imagine some frantic woman banging on your motel door.
Right? Help, I'm a telemarketer. Then you just shut all the lights off. Pretend it didn't happen. But she never reported this or anything?
She actually waited 2 years before she reported it.
2 years? I wonder why.
I think that she felt that some of her behavior during that was, inappropriate and possibly illegal with the...
Oh, the part-time hooker?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she didn't want to report it to police at that time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I think after she figured out that it was the man that had killed a lot of people, she went to police. Gary's son with his second wife, named Matthew, remembers a loving father that attended all of his sporting events, never missed a concert. He actually said that his dad would always find a way to be interested in whatever Matthew was interested in. He never knew that his father, Gary, once raped a dead body while Matthew slept in the back of a truck 30 feet away, or once took a woman into the woods to kill her and told the boy that the woman decided to walk the rest of the way home. When a woman seemed to be thinking twice about getting into Gary's car, he used to show women pictures of his son to gain their trust. He showed them that he was a caring father by leaving toys in the backseat of the car, showing them pictures of his room. His son had no idea that he was using him as bait. The kind of things that Matthew does remember are things like riding along the Green River bike trail with his father and playing baseball at the Green River, having hostess cake picnics near the Green River. Imagine some frantic woman banging on your motel door.
Right? Help, I'm a telemarketer. Then you just shut all the lights off. Pretend it didn't happen. But she never reported this or anything?
She actually waited 2 years before she reported it.
2 years? Wonder why.
I think that she felt that some of her behavior during that was, inappropriate and possibly illegal with the...
Oh, the part-time hooker?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she didn't want to report it to police at that time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I think after she figured out that it was the man that had killed a lot of people, she went to police. Gary's third wife and him were married for 17 years when he got caught. She claims that she had no idea. They were happily married. He actually said that she made him want to kill less.
So she made him want to kill less, but, not at all.
Right. So if you look at the amount of bodies, like the first few years before he married her was a lot denser with killing than the remaining 17 years that they were married. I mean, he killed clearly more in those 17 years, but less a year.
Well, thank God for her.
Well, I mean, that's kind of true. Because God knows how many people he would have killed and not gotten away with it fully, but I mean, he got away with it for 20 years.
It's still amazing.
It is.
I feel like if I'm a detective and I'm trying to solve a murder case, like, it's all just right there for me in this one. How hard is it to just put some decoy prostitutes out there?
I don't know. In 1983, Gary was brought in for questioning in regards to the disappearance of a prostitute. A witness saw the prostitute get into the back of his truck. Gary wasn't a smoker or a gum chewer, but he would leave gum wrappers and cigarette butts at the crime scenes to throw off investigators. He would also make sure to change the tires on his truck frequently.
The gum wrappers and cigarette butts is pretty clever.
For a guy with an IQ of 80.
Yeah, that makes it even, more remarkable. I mean, this is even, before DNA and all that, so... And the tires. And so, you go to the tire shop. Oh, hey, Gary. Need a new set of those Michelins? No, not the Michelins. I need something totally random and different this time.
Right, I wonder if he went to different tire shops.
Oh, all along the Green River.
Right, with
Customer of the year.
80 IQ. He was smart enough to go to different tire shops.
And get different brands of tires.
In August 1983, 4 more bodies were found, and the Green River Task Force was set in motion.
The Green River Task Force that accomplished jack shit over the next 15 plus years.
Well, I think that they tried, but unfortunately, Gary didn't leave any evidence at his house. There were no witnesses. They had to wait for DNA. I think they knew who he was, but they just couldn't stop him.
So, I don't know.
I mean, he took a lie detector and he passed.
Well, it's not a lie if you believe it.
I think that proves an extra special level of psychopath when you're not nervous to take a lie detector about killing multiple women.
He is a smooth criminal.
In 1984, the suspected death toll rose to 42. Police realized that he had been seen with another prostitute in his car. Her body was found 2 years later. When police came out with this information, Gary actually contacted the Green River Task Force and passed a polygraph test. In 1987, police got a warrant to search his home. There was nothing there to link him to the killings. They did get DNA from Ridgway, but they did not yet have the technology to link it to the semen found on the bodies. It always amazes me how police started taking DNA so many years before that technology was actually usable, and they did it very adamantly.
Yeah, no, it's some definite foresight on their part.
Fortunately, the cops kept the sample, and in 2001, the sample matched Ridgway. He was arrested. He didn't confess at first. He tried to get out of it, but once he realized it was over, he confessed. Gary stated he wanted to kill as many sex workers as possible. He thought people were less likely to report sex workers missing, and also he hated them. Ridgway claims to have killed 80 women. He took a plea deal for 48 and got 48 consecutive life sentences with no possibility of parole. Ridgway claims to be responsible for 80 murders. And an article from 2013 in the Como News states, Ridgway was working with Rob Fitzgerald to find victims that had been previously unfound. They put him in a van and drove him to dump sites. He says that they wouldn't let him out of the van, but they recorded him declining to get out of the van. At the time of the article, they had been working with Gary for about 10 years and had yet to find an additional victim.
So he's just using these little day trips as like little getaways out of jail for a couple hours at a time.
Could be. Attention. He likes attention.
And they just let this go on for like 10 years. Like, maybe this time he'll show us a real one. Come on, Gary.
I mean, if there's a possibility, though, that there's a missing girl that they would find.
Yeah, they can't just say,
I think they also do search them without him as well.
Right. That sucks, though. What a dick. Hey, come on, I'll show you. Just get me in the car. Oh, not this time, copper.
And Gary Ridgway is still sitting in solitary confinement in the Walla Walla prison to this day, where he avoided the death penalty and took a life imprisonment in exchange. So now it is time to pick the card for the March 1st Maniac Murder episode. Jeff's going to pick a card. Pick a card. Pick any card, Jeff.
Any card. All right. And the winner is Patrick Kearney, the Trash Bag Killer. Patrick Kearney, age at first kill 25, years undiscovered 12. Number of victims between 21 and 28. And he was born 24 September 1939. Has a maniac factor of 3 stars. Patrick Kearney was primarily a necrophile and possibly the most prolific serial killer alive in U.S. history. He claimed to have killed 43 young men starting in 1974. Kearney is estimated to have committed murders on almost a monthly basis. And I'm going to add that he has one really funky ear.
Ooh, he does.
Not 2 funky ears. But
just one.
One outstandingly funky ear.
So make sure you tune in on March 1st for our special Maniac Murder episode. Mm-hmm. And that concludes our podcast for today. You can find us on Twitter at coffeemurder_. You can find us on Instagram at Coffee, Cigarettes, and Murder.
If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or contributions, you can email us at coffeecigarettesandmurder@gmail.com.
Stay safe, my friends. Evil people are everywhere.
Tell somebody you love them.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Coffee, Cigarettes, and Murder.